Hi, Andrew Cooper here, Advice for Living Financial Planning in Rosanna. We're coming to the end of a year that I think most of us would probably rather forget. I don't need to tell you that it's been a year the likes of which most of us have never experienced. And yet, in the year where every day in lockdown seemed to drag, here we are at the end of that year. And in Australia, almost no one has the virus, and incredibly, financial markets have either fully recovered or are on their way to doing that. At the start of this year, when markets began to decline, my advice was to hold on because I felt that the nature of the virus was such that when a vaccine was found or when the virus began to recede, that people would just resume their normal lives and financial markets would return to their normal rhythm. I'm so pleased to see that that has actually happened. I will say I gave that advice with some trepidation, especially after seeing the size and speed of the drop in markets back in March. But I felt that the virus was an incident rather than a structural change in markets. I appreciate that you all generally heeded that advice, people didn't panic, and now we see that with vaccines likely to be available in the very near future, financial markets have indeed come back. There are still many businesses that remain affected and unfortunately some that will not return. But on the other hand, there are new businesses that have done well, and we have also seen many new ways of actually doing business. So against the background of a really dreadful year, I'm actually quite optimistic about 2021. Governments around the world are putting stimulus packages into place, and this will see a great deal of investment in particularly infrastructure, but also in a range of services. And I can't help but think that these will provide strong growth opportunities in a range of sectors. In terms of client portfolios, we've been working with a number of you who have had large exposure to commercial property, and we have generally been moving that to infrastructure funds or to international shares. I do think there will be a recovery in commercial property, but I think it will require a good deal of restructuring in that sector for that to happen. We're beginning to see office workers return to their buildings, but with only a proportion returning and many only returning on a few days per week and many not returning at all. So that recovery could actually be some time coming whilst the large amounts of empty office space are either gradually transformed into something else or business and population growth gradually takes up the slack. As for cash, all indications are that rates for cash will remain low for a very long period of time. As a result, we'll continue to keep minimal amounts in your cash buckets for those of you in retirement, and money that would often otherwise go into cash or fixed interest. We'll be discussing with you diverting some of that into dividend-paying shares. While I know that this will increase the aggressiveness and volatility of some portfolios, the alternative is locking yourself into very low return options. As for share markets, I expect they will go back to doing what they've been doing for the last 100 years. There have been predictions that returns will be lower, both in regard to growth and also share dividends, and in fact that there may even be a correction. But in terms of liquid growth assets, it's hard to argue that shares still represent the best option for building and maintaining wealth. I know that residential property, particularly in the eastern capitals, has of course done very well, and many of you have investment properties. But property is a collection of local markets, each with its own dynamics, and of course there are ongoing costs and large barriers to entry and exit. So it's an asset class that's not for everyone. So that's about it for 2020. I haven't even touched on the American election or the Chinese trade and diplomatic issues, but I will keep those for my first video next year. On behalf of Alison and myself and our team members at least, Lisa and Marlene, thank you all for your ongoing support and loyalty. We look forward to catching up with everyone next year. Our last day in the office this year will be Friday, 18 December. We will be using those couple of days in the next week leading up to Christmas for some review and planning for next year. So we will be here and available if there's anything that you need. As usual, we'll be back on deck on the 18th of January. That's Monday the 18th next year. But again, during the break, we'll be around and available. So if there's anything critical that comes up, then do please get in touch. On a final and very personal note, the office will be closed this Friday, 4th of December, as Alison and I are having a couple of days away to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. So finally, thank you all again. Have a wonderful Christmas. Good riddance to 2020, and we look forward to seeing you all in 2021.